I'm Lauren.
And I'm Annie.
Welcome to Birth
Barf.
Do you notice anything different about us?
We hope you do. By the time it gets to you, I hope this sounds a lot better.
Yeah. Annie went Harry and the Potter and went full new studio setup for us because we got a lot of feedback response from folks that some of us are quiet and some of us are loud.
Yeah.
And
Also, we're very quiet and very loud people.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
We're doing our best. So
now we've got a new setup and we hope that it comes to your sweet, sweet ear holes in a new and exciting way.
yeah. And if you don't like it, keep it to your goddamn self.
Yeah, I mean, you stayed with us this long, right? We've been
Yeah, what
we've
do
been a
you care?
podcast for 4 years. It's been pretty jangly before. I don't think you cared about it before.
Yeah, it's gone pretty up and down. That's for sure.
It has. So we've been non-stop, y'all, and we're not done. We have just been doing a just constant
Yeah.
speed bag of racing in the last couple months.
Yeah, I'm in the home stretch, kind of. And I feel like I can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
But do you even want it to be at the end of the tunnel? Are you still having fun?
I am still having lots of fun.
Are you exhausted?
I need like
50 more naps?
a 1 day breather.
Yeah.
I just need a 1 day breather.
You're not going to get one for at least 3 more weeks, right? Because you have 3 activities in succession in the upcoming 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, take a breather.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Over the course of this year, everything's going to average out because of, not doing anything for a very long time. But yeah, it's an abundance of riches. I'm just going to keep saying that. My
Yes.
problem is an abundance of riches.
It is.
And this last weekend is no exception. So
you did something without me, and that's my fault. But the very exciting news about what you did is that we are growing our team as Birth Barf Racing.
yeah.
So tell the folks where you just returned from.
Oh,
You're going to have a lot of feels today.
I'm going to have a lot of feels today. I had a lot of feels beforehand and during, so I'm certainly not going to stop now. So it was at the 2021 Buff Betty Adventure Race put on by Adventure Addicts Racing, which I think is funny that all of these adventure racing companies have drug-related names. Adventure Addicts, Adventure Enablers.
Yes, they do.
I think adventure racers view their own need for adventure satiety as an issue,
crack
which is
cocaine.
probably
Yeah.
appropriate, but
Yeah, I feel that.
yeah.
So it's an all-women's event.
It's an all-women's event. This year they did an 8-hour and a 4-hour division. In the past, I think they've done shorter divisions. They did say post-race that women deserve hard races,
Hell yeah.
and they are looking to move up to a 12-hour, maybe even a 24-hour.
Oh, that's
all-women's
exactly what
race,
I wanted
which-
you to say. That's awesome.
Oh, can you imagine a 24-hour
No.
all-women's race?
No, I'd shit my pants. I would be so stoked. So
that'd be
wait,
so
before you start talking about all the details of the race, what are the categories that you can compete in within this race as a woman?
Sure. So you could do a solo,
Okay.
2-person, 3-person,
Oh,
4-person.
And they all scored in their own right?
yeah.
Oh,
Each
man.
division got a podium because there
Wow.
was 3 or more within each division. There was
Wow.
120 women at this event.
It just makes my heart sore. That's
Yeah.
so many people.
It is.
I mean,
It's a
how many
lot of
people
women.
were at Adventure Race Nationals? About 100-ish? Like 110? And to consider...
Yeah, like 40 teams of 3.
Yeah. So to consider that there's an entire event that's bigger than Adventure Race Nationals that's only women is
Yeah.
truly staggering.
Yeah.
Cool.
It was very cool. So this event in particular was a culmination of our conversations on this very podcast, Birth Barf, about getting more women into adventure racing. And specifically, we have been touting being registered for this event for quite a while leading up to it, and just saying, we have spots if anybody wants to come be on the team.
Mhm.
This is your time to do it.
And we've heard great responses, actually. We were really surprised.
Yes.
Not just for this race, but upcoming races as well.
Yeah.
People just reached out and said, hey, I heard about it on the podcast or from Women of AR,
yeah.
and have just come right to us, which is
Yeah.
the best case scenario for us. I
Yeah.
mean, we thought it was potentially like crickets. Like, hey, you guys want to come talk about poop with us in the woods? And like 8 women were like, yeah, I've never met you, and absolutely yes, let's travel together.
Yeah, and I think about how when we first needed a teammate for Adventure Race Nationals in 2019, it was between our dear friend Mika Shines and one other woman, and the one other woman wasn't available schedule-wise, and Mika was our tried and true. She was the only one that was available.
Yes, but we did interview 4 people.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, to go from that to expanding our reach now to having women reach out to us to participate in this is pretty cool. So,
and we're not done.
And we're not done. Yeah, but so we had.
So yeah, talk about your team.
Yeah, there was 2 teams of 3, and we knew we would all be racing together as a group because I'm the only navigator within the group, which can be a limiting factor. I had actually put out in the Women of AR group a few months ago on Facebook about kind of assessing people's feelings about doing 2 teams together.
Right, like, is that getting a leg up if you're dragging another team? Is that looked down upon ethically within the racing community?
Right, and the general consensus was more women, more good. So that was very reassuring.
Yes, do please.
Yes, do please. Do not accept any reason to not have as many women as possible come. So we had our 2 teams of 3. We've ended up breaking up pretty randomly, and again, it didn't matter because we knew that we were not kind of staying together all day. We were staying completely together.
Got it.
But we had 3 women from our Athens, Ohio Burf Barf branch, which essentially that's what they are at this point. As you may remember, we got invited to a speaking engagement at Fluff Bakery in Athens, Ohio several years ago. A year? 2 years?
2 years
2
ago?
years.
I don't know.
The lost year.
I
2
know.
years.
Time is weird.
Oh, God. It was 2 years.
Yeah, but that's when we bonded our forever love with them.
Yeah. And they have just continued to be a group of enthusiastic people that are down to clown. So, Ashley Brown.
Loves racing.
Jessica K., owner of Fluff Bakery. And Hannah V.
Oh, man. Hell yeah.
So that was our Athens contingent. And then a dear new friend, Candy Bates of Cleveland, Ohio area was like, I think just a couple of weeks before the event was like, yo, I'm good at making bad decisions. This seems like one. Maybe I should come. And I said, you should come. And then I was like, I'm not pressuring you, but here's the registration. Oh, you signed up. Okay.
Okay. Here we go. Okay.
And she said, well, I'm very good at making bad decisions for myself very quickly.
Oh.
So that was great.
Well, I can relate to her in that I do that on your behalf all the time.
Yeah. So Candy is an ultra runner, has done a couple hundreds, is out of our kind of like Outrun 24 contingent. So is in with those folks.
Okay.
And bless her heart, came to Columbus and drove 6 hours with me down to the event without having known anything about me but the podcast.
She doesn't know this, but that's like not inside your comfort wheelhouse.
Yes.
So I'm sure
growth on everybody's part.
Yes. Very cool. Very proud of you. And so then your final member was a last minute pinch hitter, which was great. And that was Blythe from the DC area. Blythe did her first adventure race the weekend before Buff Betty and said, I like this. Can I come with you? It really does. The hook gets in deep pretty much immediately with adventure racing, especially if you come from other sports, because you're like, oh, wait, it could be fun. Because I've been just hurting myself with like no fun at all before.
But I could hurt myself and have fun.
I mean, that really was a revelation for me after my first adventure race.
Yeah. So Blythe actually drove down the morning of the race because she lived about an hour and a half away and said she was experiencing all kinds of FOMO for not being there the night before at the campground. But don't worry, she was in there snug as a bug in a rug as soon as she got there. So and Blythe also just has a lot of contagious enthusiasm to be like, we should be doing more. This is awesome. We should get sponsorships. Like, let's make this happen. Like, let's blow it up. So Blythe, I love that energy.
We'll take that
Have.
enthusiasm.
Yeah. So that was our team of 6, including me. Co-founder of
don't
Burf
forget.
Barf. I won't forget me.
Don't forget. I like that you wrote it down.
I did.
Just in case you forgot you were there.
Because also it matches with the theme of the day, which was all day I was going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
1, 2, 3, 4,
5, 6.
Am I here? We're all here.
We'd go down
Plus
a
five.
reentrant and I'd be like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So
Okay,
it
we're on the
was like
bikes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Taking a group of like grade schoolers out on an outdoor adventure.
It absolutely was. In a different scenario, I may have had us all
Little-
hold
on a
onto
little
a rope.
That's
Yeah.
cheating.
They-
No, that's not cheating. You can do that.
I could do that. They did. The rest of the team did say I was like a mother goose with my little goslings
1, 2, 3, 4.
behind me.
1, 2, 3, 4,
1, 2, 3,
5, 6.
4, like
Here we are.
tapping
Here
their
we are.
heads.
Okay.
1, 2, 3,
Bing,
4,
bing,
5,
bing,
6.
So, talk a little bit about where this race is held and how we have actually seen parts of this
Yeah.
course before.
Yeah, we've seen lots of this course. So it was held at the Shenandoah River State Park, which was part of our course on the Shenandoah Epic 24-hour earlier this year.
Hate and love.
And it was the park is beautiful. So it actually, the part of our course that we did for Buff Betty encompassed like, if you remember where we saw baby foxes at the
Could never forget.
Shenandoah
Best
Adventure
part.
Race.
Best part.
That was part of our course. The mountain bike trails that we did that had some climbs to get up in there, but then we got to do some fun descents. That was part of the course.
Oh yeah, the
as
Bluebells
well.
descent, the famous.
Well, actually, the Bluebells was the flat part, but
Oh,
yes,
okay.
but we got to do that as well. Which I have to tell you, the Bluebells trail without the Bluebells. Not as exciting, and I'm just like
Yeah.
describing it for the team. Like, just imagine.
Just days ago, there were
Yes.
flowers here everywhere.
I assure you, they're real. But there was, I mean, 4 or 5 really dramatic overlooks over the Shenandoah
And
River.
during the day, so
And
like
during the day,
able to enjoy them.
who knew? And then there were other unpleasant common factors between Shenandoah and between the Shenandoah 24-hour event and the Buff Betty event.
Random steep climbs that make you want to kill
A
yourself.
little bit of that.
Well, what
but
else?
Mostly, do you remember us kind of going back and forth and being like, how do we get into the mountain bike trails? Remember, it took
Yes.
us a minute
Yes,
to
the
like
hardest
find
part-
where people
The
were.
hardest part is finding the trailhead.
Yeah, and
we
then
were
we-
just staring at people in like parking lots, like,
Yes.
"Hey, I don't mean to bother you, but
How do we get in?
how do we get into the mountain bike trails?"
Yes, and then we finally got in there, and people were like hanging out and
Clumped
partying
together,
at the
yeah.
like
Start
trail
talking about quitting.
intersections. Yes, and we were like, "Oh, here you are! This whole time we've just been right over there in the parking lot,
Whoops.
unable to get into you." Totally did that same thing
Oh,
where it was
shit.
like, "How do we get
to the fucking
in?
trail.
How do we get in?" Yeah. I put my ponytail in the wrong spot today, so it's interfering with my headphones. Now I know.
Okay. Now you know that you can't do that hairdo.
I'll still do it. I'll just wrap it around the top of my headphones.
Sexy.
For those of you that don't join us on YouTube, I have a partial head ponytail on top of my head,
a Bam Bam.
Bam. Mm-hmm. Yes, like Bam Bam.
Bam.
So, but yes, the location for the race was awesome. One downside was the paddle was canceled because the river level was too high. Having been in that area before, I can assure you that was the right decision.
Absolutely. I mean, like, it would have taken all of the power in the world not to go the wrong way.
Yeah. The river gauge level, I think, was 7 feet.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's where we had to paddle backwards upstream past the bridge, right? Where we were like the most proud of ourselves. No, is that the wrong
No,
race?
no, that's the wrong race. You're thinking of No Sleep, our first ever adventure race.
Sure I am.
Whatever.
I remember all of it.
Whatever. No, this is the one that we did the 13-mile paddle through the gnats or the mayflies or whatever.
Yeah, and there was actual rapids.
Yeah.
So that would have been impossible.
Yeah. So they
didn't like 3/4 of all teams tipped the last time we did that river?
Yeah.
Okay.
um
See, I remember things.
and it was awesome because Adventure Addicts made the call. They said, we could wait till Saturday morning to see if it's better, but they made the call on Friday night, so we knew we weren't going to do the paddle Friday
Which is
night.
really for the best because your team's strong suits are like super intense long distance on foot and even
a little bit of bike.
And even though they don't self-report about it, I would say you have some very strong bikers on that team.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the paddle would have been a nice add to get the full AR experience, but
Not a huge loss.
I'll give Hannah her due. She said she used to be into canoeing, very into canoeing many years ago. So I was looking forward to the opportunity for her to be able to dust some of that off. But Hannah, you'll just have to come out and do it again. No problem.
I bet you will.
Yeah. So that's the location. Adventure Addicts, the race organizers, just awesome. Just like the best energy. Like Michelle is like a 6 foot tall woman with big curly hair and just bigger than life. And, I...
You love it. You love it too much to talk about it.
Too much to talk about.
And the swag is pretty groovy, and the hats are pretty groovy. I will say, I am in a place now where I am very sick of all women's things being really kitschy and titled really gross kitschy things. And I come from a background where I started a team with a bad kitschy lady's name and also was a part of a friend group with a bad kitschy lady's name. And I'd like to find a pathway towards naming things authentically in a way that supports women and that indicates that it's for women, that doesn't say things like this title is saying.
Yeah.
I just don't like it. It gets under my skin.
Which part? Buff Betty?
I really don't like it.
So I think the important piece to know is that Buff Betty is like a legacy race. It's been around for a long time.
Yes, it's been around for a long time. And maybe it's due for an update.
I think you can shove it.
I had a feeling that you liked it, and I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't like things like she this and lady that.
Oh.
It really bothers me. Even if it's a space for women. It feels like the Shrink It and Pink It version. It's like, oh, we could be doing things in the outdoors, but it's called like she outdoors. And I feel like that like pigeonholes us in a way that's like, it's the normal thing, but for ladies.
Then what is Buff Betty the male version of?
I don't know, but I'm telling you, we got to think of new naming conventions that don't make it like, the Lady Bic razor, pens for women to be held delicately because they're pink and soft.
I feel like I would love to have like a broader discussion about this.
I know I've never brought it up to you, and I felt like this would be a totally wrong time. So I did.
I know your feelings about this. I'm just interested in how we pay homage to who this race is for.
Yeah,
like I think about like Nathan hydration vests. And our dear friend Morgan Green reaching out to Nathan and being like, what the fuck is up with these colors?
Yeah.
I don't want a purple vest and I don't want a white vest.
No.
Give me some good colors.
For me, I can tell you right off the bat, like what I think would be the solution would be to name the race and then to say women's race. Like name it like the Aggro Crag 5000 women's race. Like name it what it is intended to be and then say it's for women. I don't need it to be all ladyfied. I really get yucked by that. I don't want to be the lady she anything.
Interesting.
I don't want a we. I don't want a she adventure. I'm sorry, I just don't. I want it to be named the intense thing that it is and have someone say, and it's for women.
Okay, I can get behind name it the intense thing it is.
Yeah.
Like the 8-hour smash a headathon women's race.
Yeah. You are not the father. Your fake virtual race.
Yeah.
I just want it to be like, because I still feel like I'm sent to this siloed island where the lady things go. And I just want to do it and have it be hard.
Interesting.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry.
You're not sorry.
That's how I feel about it, and I don't like it.
I feel differently,
okay.
And that's okay.
It is okay. Shake.
Friends
forever. Carry on.
Carrying on. Also, I'm just going to tack one more piece on there. I really like being addressed as a group as Buff Betties. I really like it.
I think that there's so much more I can say about this, because I feel like Betty as like a concept is sort of like a golden age 50s and 60s fetishized idea of a woman.
Oh my.
And so I have a real strong aversion to the concept of what a Betty is. And then in the 90s, how people used Betty to be like a hot woman with big boobs.
Oh.
I just am so averse to the entire concept of a Betty.
Interesting.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm just the pain in the ass woke bitch. But I mean, you're a lot more woke than me about a lot of other concepts that I'm like, didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
So this is just one that I'm bringing to the table that rubs me raw.
Interesting. I'm just going to keep saying interesting because I think it's interesting. And listeners, I would love to hear from you on what your thoughts are on this piece.
I would too. I mean, and I'm glad for you to disagree with me, but I think that it's time to maybe investigate some of these things.
Yeah,
okay.
I agree.
Let's talk about the race.
one of the things for the race organizers that I want to point out is their rules of travel. So their little booklet stating like what each section of the race was going to be like. They had really like silly sayings in there for each one of the legs. And one of them is, when the lovemaking stops, this is what happens.
Wow, I really, really like that.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that like kind of level of humor was really good. And like also, you know, Michelle, the RD, one of the RDs was saying, you know, this, you know, women deserve hard races. So she's like, you know, there's not like flowers and roses everywhere. And she was like, she goes, but the winners do get bouquets because we own a flower farm. But she's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're not gonna. There's not gonna be like flowers or anything except for when we give you flowers at the end.
Yeah, for winning. Yeah, yeah, that's fine though. So I don't know where to go next. I just have all these things to talk about.
Okay.
So I think probably something worth mentioning is the niceness of the schedule of this race. So race start was at 9. I'm doing the math.
That's very chill.
I'm doing the math in my head. Hold on. What? Wow, I'm having a really hard time with the math.
Okay.
We ended
Someone just fell asleep somewhere.
We ended at 5? Anyways, I'll just say
You raced for a business day.
we raced for a business day. We had 2.5 hours with the maths.
Oh, what the fuck? What?
Yeah. I thought we had an hour and a half with one 11 by 17 map, and I was freaking stoked. And we got 2.5 hours.
With 4 maps, right? Because don't
one map, 4 sets. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Oh, it does
4
matter.
sets
I mean,
of
just
the
get
one
eyes.
sheet.
Okay. Okay. So that's unlike anything we've ever done.
Yeah. And some of that time was pre-race talk, but it wasn't very long. It was like maybe 15 to 18 minutes for the 8-hour group and the same for the 4-hour group.
So you had a solid amount of time to strategize. How did that change the beginning of your race compared to other adventure races?
Completely different. Also, I was just really happy to have the opportunity to talk with the rest of my teammates who are interested in going through what we were doing, and some of them had time to even copy the route that I selected onto their copies of the map, which was super helpful. So
That's cool.
as I think about getting more women into adventure racing, I think a real bottleneck, and I've said that before, is having women navigators.
Mhm.
So having more women build up their navigation skills gives more opportunity for all women teams at other events.
Mhm. Who on the team stood out as somebody who was most,
Ashley Brown.
most interested in becoming a navigator?
Ashley Brown just and really has like a knack for it.
Cool.
Also,
She's a born racer, man.
And there's a common theme among this group that they kind of undersold their skills a little bit.
Yes, I believe that.
Which was great, which was
Too
good.
humble.
And it didn't feel like the normal female deferral of their ability.
Mhm.
It was more like, oh yeah, this is relevant. And it's like,
I
yeah.
have all these jewels in my pockets.
Like Ashley, like, oh yeah, part of my college degree was cartography classes.
wow, that's amazing.
Yes, she goes, granted, I was doing it more for like the art thing of being like, oh, this is like so cool. But I was like, that helps.
So relevant.
Yeah, so she was a great resource. And on the first orienteering leg, she was right there with me looking at the map, talking through every step
That has
of the
to
way,
feel
which was
supportive
great.
for you.
Yes. And
Because I
also-
don't do that for you lately.
You don't.
I have other strengths.
Yep.
And I'll get back to it, but right now I know that I don't have those skills, so
Yeah.
I just stand there,
Yeah, it's fine.
eat fish.
Yeah, so
Swedish fish.
It was Ashley really shined in that area, and Candy has also started to get involved with a gentleman within her neck of the woods is actually, I think, tangentially related to the Northeast Ohio Orienteering Club. So he actually took her out on a one-on-one
Oh,
to kind
cool.
of give her the lay of like he put not actual checkpoint flags, but areas that they were going to on a map and going through those point to point. with
Perfect.
her. So I could see her getting involved in orienteering in the
Sweet.
future too.
Sweet.
To be clear, I'm not excluding the rest of the teammates, Jess, Hannah, Blythe, from picking up more of this. And Blythe did her first adventure race completely solo, so she's
going to be okay.
she's doing
too.
it anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was also just really proud that we had 2 copies of the map per team. Again, I feel like these are all very important conscious decisions by a race race organizers to get more women and people
Learning.
navigating
Yeah.
because
Using it as a learning. Traditionally,
Yeah.
you get one per team no matter what.
yeah, and there's no opportunity for others to get up to speed
Yeah, we
while
get
also
laughed at.
racing.
And I'll never forget, we were in the parking lot. We walked out and I was like, oh, they forgot to give us 2 maps. We turned around and went inside and they were like, that's the map you get. And we were like, but no.
We get another
But we
one,
rode,
right?
but Annie and I rode crew together.
Yeah. So as we had 4 copies of the maps between all of us. I, of course, hugged my own copy the whole time, but the other 3 copies were always out by different teammates rotating and following along. Which
That's
was
amazing.
awesome. But yeah, being able to have that long with the maps beforehand felt so luxurious because I was like, I'm going to do this. This for sure is a thing that I want to do. And I was like, well, no, maybe I'm going to do it this way. Like, so the flow of the race was an on-foot orienteering section, a mountain bike single track section. Thinking through this, go over to another TA, a large orienteering section, and then a shorter mountain bike section to finish the race. So we went back and forth between on foot and mountain biking 2 separate times, which was great. So I routed out the whole first orienteering loop. And originally you were going to have to do the orienteering section in an order and the paddle was going to be mixed in there. But with taking the paddle out, they said, okay, these 2 stages are combined and you can do these checkpoints in any order, which only made a few differences to do them in order versus out of order.
Mhm.
But I had this whole loop mapped out and I was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And then probably about 15 minutes, maybe less before we were going to start, I was like, you know what? I've learned this lesson before. If we kind of go the way that it seems like the natural way to go, we're going to end up with a bunch of other teams.
Waiting.
And we're going to be just waiting to punch checkpoints.
Yes.
I did this with Andy and Arbor at our Shenandoah adventure race. And we were like, yeah, we're going. And then we were waiting for at least 15 minutes to get on and off a 1-person bridge where the
15 minutes.
where the checkpoint was.
Oh, totally flooded because it's the only direction of travel that people
Yes.
could go.
And
Okay.
everybody had to go in and out the same direction on the bridge.
So people were just stopped up and
Yeah.
you would be losing time. So
Yeah.
with your expertise and knowledge, you decided, fuck
to
that.
reverse. We're going to reverse the whole loop. And instead of going to the one that's closest first and happens to be checkpoint 1, we're going to shuffle for 1.5 miles on this road
Mhm.
to the checkpoint 11, I think. And we'll just work our way the other way around. And it worked out great. I think there was maybe 2 or 3 other teams that were kind of in the same area that we were or had the same approach. But it was funny because we started out and in the middle of the loop, when we popped out of a reentrant, it was like a party in the woods because then
That's
we
awesome.
saw all of the teams that were coming at us from the other direction.
That's so cool.
But yeah, so being able to make those kind of strategic decisions because I wasn't just
That's
going,
some next, that's some next level shit.
just like drawing all over the map
Yeah.
to be like, there, it's a route.
Okay, so you're leveling up.
I am leveling up when I have enough time. Yeah. No, I am leveling up. I felt really good about that. So we did the first on foot section.
And how was your nav?
It was great. We cleared the whole on foot section. And the rest of the team was asking great questions about like, what does a reentrant look like?
Mhm.
Or, why are we getting off here? And I'm like talking as I'm going through saying like, you can tell that we're on this part of the trail because now the river's right next to us when
Mhm.
it wasn't right next to us before.
Mhm.
Talking about thumbing along on the map, meaning you have your thumb on the map and you're folding it so that you're just looking at the part that you're traveling.
Mhm. And changing the orientation of the map as you
Yep.
travel forward
Yep.
through space.
Yep. And just it was really great. They just were really participating
And super keyed in
engaged.
to the
yeah.
that's awesome.
Also, I think the giggling and laughing and saying I'm having the best time ever started really early.
That's
And I
so
have
great.
to give it up for the course design as well. On average, we got a checkpoint across the whole race, I think every like 15 minutes.
That really it does
Oh,
so well
man.
for morale because if you're out there for a long time, you can lose your whole like you can just lose your oomph for the day.
Yes.
If you're not getting those like constant dopamine hits of like, I see it.
And it was constant. It was great. So I remember
cool.
we were running along this ridge with this great overlook and we were about to wrap this on foot section. And I was like, okay, so how many checkpoints do we have? and they were like 10. I was like, okay, so 10 and in 2.5 hours. And I was like, 10 and 2.5
How?
10 and 2.5
Wow.
hours. And I was just thinking, and Blythe goes, I can tell by the way you're saying that we're crushing it. And I was like, and I was just thinking, like, if I'm doing my math right, and I was just like, that's not the math I'm used to doing. I'm used to being like 36 minutes. Yay!
Well, you blasted out the last section at Nationals, just like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
You did 4 an hour for 2.5 hours.
Yeah. So
you're very capable of
Yeah.
doing that many checkpoints in a short amount of time.
yeah, so the first orienteering section was great. We really settled in really easy. A lot of like communication between everybody on what they needed. You know, we started running a little bit faster when we were starting out, and I was like, so this is actually a little fast for me. And everybody else was like, yep, it's fast for me too. And I was like, but this is probably going to be one of the few flat runnable sections we have. So
let's rip it.
we're just going to go a little bit faster.
Okay.
And there was a lot of questions within the team afterwards, and probably good context for anybody else that may have seen us on the course, because I experience the same thing when I think about teams who I think of as being faster than Burf Barf as a competitive team. I just see them going into the woods. I assume that they're sprinting as hard as they can the entire time.
Some of them really are.
Well, sometimes, but like, you know, we've still seen elite teams walk periodically.
Yeah, we saw quite a bit of that at Nationals.
Yes, yeah. So I typically, without being checked about it, assume that they go into the woods, perform flawlessly and with great speed, and then they come out, and that's what happens in the middle. So some of the team was asking about how our pace at Buff Betty compared to when I'm on our competitive team. And I was like, really? I think we do maybe one full notch faster and a few less pauses. And I said, that's it.
You mean with the team, with what competitive team?
You
Oh, okay.
and Laura?
I assumed that you guys were like cooking.
No.
Okay.
I would say we were no hurry, no pause.
Okay, we kind of blasted ass at Nationals. Like,
Yes.
There were a lot of moments where I was like, oh, I haven't redlined in an adventure
Yes.
race ever.
Yes.
We really tried our tookuses off.
Yes,
at
we
it.
did.
Yeah.
Yes. But like we also had sections where we were kind of stumbling along like zombies a little bit because it's longer.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So like if the three of us did an 8-hour race, we would have gone one notch higher than I
Okay.
did with the team this weekend.
Okay, I see now.
But that's about it. So I was telling them like this, like we don't redline for a whole event. And I really got the opportunity to stop and teach along the way too. So like we were
Insane.
stopping, and that was valuable time for us to stop as a team in order to do that. So for example, one time Hannah said, it seems like you just stopped on the trail apropos of nothing and took us into the woods. How did you know
Why?
to do that?
yeah,
Which-
yeah.
I feel like when navigation is done really well, it's magic. It looks like magic.
It does. It looks like you like sensed a rumbling in your stomach and were like, left. Don't leave the trail now.
Now. And I have like my divining rod, and I'm like, now! So it's like talking about pace counting and looking at, you know, the features of the land and how much that matched up with the map. Another map note I should make is that the race course map was put together by none other than Mark Latanzi, and it was
Aw.
a 1 to 15,000 map, which is halfway between a USGS map and an orienteering map.
Does that break your mathematical brain, or is
no,
it okay?
No,
Oh,
it's
good.
great.
Okay.
Like there was
It's
a
good
lot
for
of
being able
detail.
to see. Yes, you want to be able to see the topography. And
Yes.
if anyone's going to do that well.
Yeah, so it was super
It's
helpful
Mark
to be
Latanzi.
like, oh yeah, I don't have to worry about like if this river actually exists on this
And
USGS
scale?
map.
Scale wasn't an issue as
No.
far as math was concerned for you?
No. So 15,000, because I'm going to think of this as like an educational episode, a 15,000 scale map, a centimeter on a 15,000 scale map, 1 centimeter equals 150 meters.
Okay.
So on a USGS map or a 24,000 scale map, 1 centimeter on the map equals 240 centimeters.
So are you pace counting?
Periodically, but not often. And I'm going to give this as a homework assignment to anyone who's going to race with Burf Barf ever, because I forgot to do it for the team this weekend. If you don't know to do this, you wouldn't do it. There's no reason you
No.
should just know you're going to an adventure race and you should do this.
No.
But if you're ever going to race with Burf Barf, you should know what your pace count is.
So tell folks how to do that.
Yeah. So a pace count is how many times it takes you to step with one of your feet, right or left, doesn't matter.
Only one.
How many times it takes you to step with that one foot, walking normally, to get to 100 meters. So go to a track, look at the 100-meter section, start on one end, walk at a normal pace from one end of the 100 meters to the other, and count how many times while walking normally you step with one foot. So for example, for me, my pace count is 62, which means if I were to start on the straight side of a track and walked normally, by the time I had taken 62 steps with my right and also 62 steps with my left, that would be 100 meters. So you go to that 100-meter section of a track, walk back and forth a few times, starting over your pace count each time, and get a feel for how many steps it takes
And
you
then
to
do it
100
running.
meters.
Do it running as well.
You can.
Because it changes sometimes a little bit.
Yep, it does.
There was somebody on, I think, one of the podium women's teams for Adventure Race Nationals who was like, my pace count's 74. And they were like, I'm sorry, what the actual fuck are you talking about? Do you just go, bing, 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 bing?
Yeah.
And she does. She takes these she has tiny little feet and takes tiny little steps. And
Yeah.
I was like, wow. Because mine's exactly the same as yours.
Yeah, and I think Laura Calm Toys is maybe like one more or something
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
two more, I think.
But yeah, if you have any other questions about pace count, don't hesitate to reach out because
we're
it's
gonna
a
rely
super
on you.
important thing. Because I did have, and I don't find many things that I've become spoiled very quickly with, but I was like, I have to go back to doing my own pace count.
No, you don't. No, you do not. Well, you won't in the future.
I did. I won't in the future, but I did this weekend because I was like, shoot, I should have had you guys do that.
Muscle
That would
and
have been
math
helpful.
is what all I can commit to.
Yeah. But there's such magic in measuring a centimeter on the map, saying a centimeter is 150 meters, and then pace counting out 62 plus half of 62 and saying this spot is 150 meters away from the last spot. That means it's time to do the next thing.
And then the magic of doing that count and then having somebody on your new team be like, there it is.
Yeah.
Which happened, right?
Yes. So this actually was in conjunction with Hannah asking, it seems like you just stopped randomly and took us into the woods. And I was like, okay, this is why I did this. And I was like, so if my calculations are correct, the checkpoint should be right in that direction. And Blythe goes, I can see it.
Oh, man. That's the best. That's fantastic.
Which was awesome. And like, I still feel that way navigating where I'm like, I can't believe that worked. Wow. I can't believe that worked. So we were all just like, yes. Yeah. We were like a mall commercial from the 80s where everybody's just like doing the best, dancing in our new khakis. So a very specific vibe that was happening.
Wow. Wow.
So yeah, so to back up, so we finished and cleared the first orienteering section, got back to our bikes that were staged at the start, which was also the TA, and did essentially a small mountain bike single track loop. And this was the part where I was like, I remember having trouble getting into the mountain bike trail.
Actually finding it, yeah.
And I was actually leaving the TA and was talking to the team about how difficult and weird it can be, especially for me, to kind of like recalibrate distances and timing when going from one discipline to another, because you're going from moving at like, 16-minute pace on foot to going much faster on a bike. And so you start
so time just goes by and you're like, oh shit, we just went a mile. Fuck.
Yes, absolutely. And so I left the TA and I didn't think that I was central orienteering too much, but I kind of was. And I was actually talking to them about not overshooting stuff on the bike. And the irony was we didn't go far enough. So after we had done a few like failed attempts to get to the right trail, I even like enlisted Ashley after, even though she didn't have a bike board, which she told me later was driving her crazy because
she was reading the whole time?
No, she wasn't, because she didn't have a bike
Okay,
map
yeah, that
board.
would be deeply unsafe.
But she was trying to catch up when I was like, I think this is where we are and this is what we should be doing. She's trying to catch up where we are.
As soon as you're stopped, she's looking on the map to try to get oriented.
Yes. So we tried we tried like 2 things that I wanted to try. We did what Ashley wanted to try as a strategy.
Cool.
And then it was like, you know what? We're going to just go back to the TA because nothing was crazy far from each other. I was like, we're just going to go back to the TA. I'm going to reset my bike computer. We're going to go 0.6 meters because or 0.6 miles because that's where a turn-in is.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just going to be diligent about checking off features as we go along.
Okay.
So we reset. Everybody did a great job of just kind of being like, I don't know what's happening here. Because we went from like knocking off checkpoints left and right to like, I don't know what I'm doing.
But how long did that actually last?
I don't know. Probably a good 15 to less than 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's
we'll say
really
15
not
to 19 minutes.
Not that intense.
No, it's not. But we reset at the TA. We headed back out, and we did have to do the mountain bike checkpoints in order. So it was like, okay, if we can't get into checkpoint number, I think it was 13 this time, we're just going to go to 14 and kind of continue from there. But we got our turn in to get our first mountain bike single track checkpoint, which was great. It was in the mountain bike system at Shenandoah River State Park. It was a little grimier.
What do you mean?
I remember.
Muddy?
So there was mud. The climbs were still there, and it was just like, this sounds like so dumb, but the trails were like a little messier, like a little bit more like rocks and just kind of crumbly ground.
They were just less built up.
Yeah, and they were just less. I remember at Shenandoah that they were buff and hard.
I do too.
Yeah,
they
They
were
were not like that.
Okay, so they got kind of destroyed in the last season.
Yes, yeah. But everybody did a great job of pushing their bike up some of the climbs, and there was just like a lot of rollers and not a lot of good sections of like just rideability.
I saw some pictures of you guys bike whacking. What?
Not yet.
Oh, not yet.
There
Hold,
yet.
Lauren, hold.
Yeah. So we did the mountain bike section, and then it was really cool. There was this whole lollipop that was nothing but a big boardwalk. So it was like
big though. I hope
it was big.
Okay.
Although I was still like kind of waiting to go from the dirt to the boardwalk and just like wipe out, because that's what I feel like is always going to happen on boardwalks.
It's happened to me many times.
Yeah.
Cracked my tailbone real good.
Yeah. But it worked out well because it was super dry and it was beautiful and it was fun and everybody was getting back in the pace of picking up checkpoints left and right. And then we just continued to do some kind of hard like ups and downs and not being able to get a good rhythm just based on the trail for the next 3 checkpoints or so. And then it was kind of do this mountain bike single track loop and then transition to the other side of the park to the TA to drop our bikes and do the next on foot section. There was checkpoint 18, not that anybody's counting or that's been the burden of my mind. Checkpoint 18 was on the way from the main mountain bike part to the TA. And I was like, you know what? We're very likely going to need to cut checkpoints.
Oh.
So I'm going to cut this one because it changes our approach to the TA.
Okay.
It means more single track.
Okay.
If we don't go get 18, that means we can essentially do our whole approach to the TA on very established roads.
So it was strategic.
Yes.
But what? Oh, dear.
We had time.
You did. Yeah, I see that in your notes here.
Yeah, so...
Which is not your usual ring it out mode.
Yeah, and at this point, we were with one of the solo racers, Monica Kornhauser, and she had been riding with us for much of the mountain bike single track.
Oh, cool.
And she was like, have you thought about how you're going to approach in the next one? I said, nah, we're not going for 18. And she was like, you have to go for 18. And I was like, nah, we're just going to go to the TA. And it was like, later it was like, you have to go to 18.
Shit.
And I was like,
it rang in your head for a while.
I should have gone with Monica.
Dang.
Oh, well, this is still something I'm continuing to work on. And who knows, like it wasn't that far out of the way, apparently, based on a conversation with other teams. But in the moment instead of going out to 18, we did get to do a pretty dope road descent up into like a little climb.
That's a nice boost.
And everybody was like hooting and hollering.
Yeah, having
was
fun.
So that was probably like one of those things where you're like, strategically,
the
maybe
boost was worth it, maybe.
But experience, yes, definitely.
Got it.
So we get to the TA and the next section was a 10 CP orienteering section and every CP was off trail. which was
Oh, wow. That's
fun.
kind of intense.
Yeah. So I was oddly looking forward to that because I think I'm starting to just establish in my head that on foot navigation is my
That's your
stronger
bag.
suit. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think because being on foot takes the least attention from me away from navigating. Being on bike
Sure.
takes attention
Yeah.
and energy away from navigating for
Yeah,
me.
it's dangerous to do it in the other disciplines of adventure
Yes.
racing.
Yes.
Or you're not paddling the boat,
Yes.
which is really going to slow us down.
But yeah, we pulled into the TA and it was great because we ended up being around a lot of the same teams all day. So the eventual, I think second place team, maybe first place team, Clip and Clipless. They were a 2-person team that we saw all day, and we were making a lot of the same choices and just would be like, there you are.
Oh, good.
And we're around Monica for a lot, and also, several Burf Barf listeners, which was really fun
love
to
that.
be around.
Yay.
But we pulled into the TA, dropped our bikes. I already had the route mapped out, which again
Hell
seems like
yeah.
a great luxury.
Hell yeah.
I was describing to the rest of the team about at Nationals needing to map out a whole course in the
you
middle
poor
of the
dear.
night,
Well,
similar to what
yeah,
we did
you
here.
poor dear.
So I was like enjoying every moment of being like, oh my God, it's like my homework's already done.
Ugh,
I'm not
your
scared of
brain
this
is
pop
free,
quiz.
Free to actually race.
Yes.
Pop quiz. Plot these points.
Yep. So we headed out on the second on foot section, and we just knocked him off
Hell
pretty
yeah.
much in the same fashion. We got to go to a couple of CPs that were worth 2 points over the course of the race, which is just like an added excitement hit to be like, that was 2 points. So like
Oh,
one of them was
cool.
high ground, so we got to go to the like top of this hill and then go down a saddle, and the next one was on top of the next hill. And it's funny because I don't think I've narrated my navigational process like fully in a long time, because I think the last time is probably when you and I had gone to wars before, and I
Yeah.
was saying the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it was fun to think about, like, to kind of audibly say how much my navigational process has changed. So to be like, okay, like where it doesn't really matter where we approach this hill, because all we need to do is get to the top of the hill. And then to be like, okay, guys, like we're coming down to this saddle, and you can tell we're in the right spot because that yellow vegetation on your map is that field over there, and that trail over there is right there. You can see it. You can tell on our route that we want to go right in between those two things, and that's what we're doing.
So all
right
the elements
now.
are coming together for you.
Yeah. And I feel like that's pretty common in teaching, that like when you can start to teach somebody else, that's when you know something really well. So that was fun. That was fun for me.
I'm
too.
proud of you.
Yeah. Trying to think of other interesting things. So I got to have a few, and I already let the team know my bias on navigation choices, where I'm like, if there's a river, I'm going to tell us to get in the water and follow the water.
I agree with that.
And I was like,
don't love it.
I was like, and if Lauren's with you, she will say, get to
high.
the top so she can
look
see.
down.
So it's funny.
My way is not the right way. I know that it's not.
I don't think mine is either, but we had a couple of reentrants that we had to kind of like storm down in the water.
I have permanent scars on my hand from doing what you just talked about.
Yeah. So it was not nearly as gnarly as Two Rivers, but it was not nothing. So I didn't keep telling them. There were times where I was like, hey guys, this section is just like dealer's choice. We need to get to the bottom. So if you feel more comfortable being in the reentrant in the water on these rocks, do that. And if you would rather side hill on the steep side of this reentrant, do that. Like it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't change the distance.
And it was funny because about half went on the side and half went in the middle.
Yeah, if you hate an off camber or you hate being wet, you choose.
Yeah. Yeah. Pick your poison. But there was a series of checkpoints that were kind of in a row in a reentrant in water that just went down.
Was it raining?
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
good.
yeah. I should mention too, the weather was like a high of 74, sunny all day, like hot in just like 2 places when you were out in the middle of the sun in the parking lot, and the rest of the time just beautiful.
What
in
is
the
that
shade.
like? I can't picture racing in
Nationals.
good weather. Well, that's true. We did have good weather.
It was like nearly the same weather as Nationals.
Okay, that's pretty great.
Yeah. So it was at this section on the on foot stage that I saw another solo racer, and gosh, I wish I could remember your name, and I should have looked it up beforehand. I want to say it was Meg, but I might be messing that up. But she was like, "Did you just come from checkpoint 26?" And I was like, "Yes." And she goes, "Dang, I think I went just by it." And I was like, it's not that far back. You can definitely get to it if you're feeling spicy. And she was like, "I don't know that I'm feeling spicy." And based on the awards ceremony, I'm 99% sure she was feeling spicy.
And you think she went back?
I think she went back and
that's
got
wonderful.
It. So
lots of inspiring people.
Yes, because I think missing a checkpoint and deciding to move on and then going back to get it is very hard. Like,
yeah.
I think about going downhill past that checkpoint at Shenandoah with Laura, and Laura was like, "We're going to go back and get it." And I was just thinking like, no, it's 8 feet behind us. No, we're not going back for it.
And never go backwards on the course is something that we kind of maybe drilled in too deeply.
Yeah, that doesn't apply here.
No, it does
not. To that solo racer, I commend you for going back for the checkpoint.
We bow deeply to you.
Yeah, that's dope. That's really dope. So we cleared the on foot section of all these off trail checkpoints, and had a really fun time. There was Ashley struggled a little bit with a salt issue, and she'd never taken salt before, and she found out that they were magic for her, which is super exciting.
Yes.
Also, just like didn't realize this was Ashley's like longest mostly on foot distance.
Really?
Yes.
That's shocking to me.
Me too. That's what I said.
I keep saying this, but I just feel like racing's in that girl's blood.
Yeah. And so I think if she would have not said anything, I would have been like, yeah, Ashley's definitely done a 50 miler.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I would assume at least a 50K. Yeah, like in my mind, that's where she's at.
Yeah. So she got through an 8-hour day, her longest non-only bike event.
While recovering
like
from a long-term injury.
Yeah. Just like a champ.
That's amazing. I love it.
But Ashley still continued to move flawlessly through this part, and everybody's enthusiasm like just continued to be like, "I'm having the best time."
I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous.
Oh man, just the support for one another was just really incredible. And so we get back on our bikes, and we're not completely in the home stretch, but we have, I want to say 4 or 5 checkpoints left essentially en route to the finish area. And I was headed out of the TA, and I think leaving TAs also aligns with the hardest thing to do is to get out of the parking lot. So this TA was like at an intersection of trails, and then there was like another intersection of trails like shortly down the trail. So I was like, I just need to make sure that I'm not just picking the one that seems like the right one, it's the one that I want. And so I'm standing there at this intersection trying to make a decision. I'm seeing teams go and stay. There was like a trail that stayed up on the ridge, and there was a trail that began a descent, and I was watching teams stay on the ridge, and the photographer was down that way, and some of my teammates were like, "Well, the photographer's over there," and I was like, "Do not follow the photographer." I was like, we
made that mistake
yeah, I was
before.
like, we're not going to do what other teams do. Like, if we decide to do that, then we do that, but we shouldn't decide to do something because another team did it.
No.
I should have done what the other team.
Oh, son of a bitch. I guess I should have seen that coming.
Yeah, but in that moment, I was like, I did go the way that I intended. It's just that the route that I was thinking was not the best. However, we do the trail that descends down to the main road, and we got to crush this descent relatively, with a few of the team being like, I really tested my brakes today.
Yeah, well, you tend to do some crazy shit downhill.
I turned it down because I was counting my baby ducks.
Okay, yes, of course.
And making sure, like, if I couldn't see everybody at once, that I was slowing down, so we were all grouping back up. Because, adventure racing is definitely a no-drop sport. So
yeah, that's the rule.
Yeah. And I mean, it amazes me, like, watching people's skills, even from the beginning of the day mountain biking to the end of the day biking.
You saw a difference in a single day?
I could see a difference in a
Of
single
just gaining
day.
confidence?
Like, also, we had 2 people with brand new bikes, a month old or less, and one individual, Jess, just borrowing a mountain bike that she'd never
and
rode
not even,
before.
yeah, not even knowing how it handles or if it's right
Yes.
for her body.
And none of them were phased. They were riding through mud pits
That's
and
awesome.
through water crossings.
That's awesome.
Like, there was a team at one point who was ahead of us, and I think one of the teammates maybe had a gravel bike, and they were like, "Don't ride this," like, to their teammate. And our team discussed, like, are we going to ride it? And I was like, I'm going to go. I'm like, I'm happy to eat shit for you guys if it doesn't work out. And I
Stellar.
rode through, and I was like, oh, definitely ride it. Everybody rode through the water crossing.
You were allowed to take a gravel bike on this race?
They encouraged a mountain bike,
Okay.
but I don't think
It wasn't a
they
hard and fast rule?
required.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, like, just the things that people were, like, stopping more for at the beginning of the day. And that was another one of the common kind of exclamations about how fun it was I would have never rode that by myself, but seeing everybody else do it,
There is
It
an
seemed okay.
incredibly delicious wisdom about just following a wheel.
yeah.
Because once a person successfully clears something, it does make it seem a lot more possible.
Yes.
I feel like if I go places alone and do single track, I'm so less inclined to try hard things.
Yeah, same. And like towards the very end of the day, there was like this little water crossing and then this steep up pitch afterwards with like 2 boards for like trail dirt retention and like a tiny little path around them to not, endo once you went through the water. And everybody made it through there.
Wow, that's awesome.
It was just fantastic. So we do this screaming descent on bikes. We get to the bottom. So it's like this screaming descent with a hairpin turn at the bottom. Good times. Lots of like, fuck. So we get down to the main road and I'm like, okay, guys, we drop our bikes at the cabin where the baby foxes were
Cool.
in Shenandoah.
Cool.
And I was like, all right, so we're down here. Our checkpoint is up on that overlook up there. We're going to just hike our happy asses up there and boop it and come down.
Poop.
So we all climb up to this outlook, which I
Mhm.
would say we probably had 4 or 5 steep off-trail climbs.
Mhm.
And that was another thing that was great is to see, and this is what adventure racing is get to see people put their superpowers into action. So
Mhm.
like we'd be on the bike and like Ashley would be like hungry to be like up in the front, and then we would hit the hills and like Candy and Jess would be like boom, like in the front,
Whoa,
leading the
awesome.
way, calves first. And like, and anytime it was like fun time, Hannah was like with it, like capturing every opportunity to be enthusiastic.
Aw,
and, like,
I love her spirit.
yeah,
She's
and,
so
like,
much fun.
Blythe the whole time was just like, yes, I love this. I love this. Just like, and I think she was probably feeling out other people on the team to do another one with her before we were even finished. So we hike up to this outlook. We come down to our bikes and we're going a little bit further. And I was like, we need to get our bikes back up on the top of that ridge.
Mhm.
So we're just really looking for a place on this hill where the vegetation breaks.
Oh boy.
And it was the same steep hill that we
Oh
had
boy.
screamed the descent down.
Oh boy.
And we found a place where the undergrowth wasn't too gnarly and bike whacked, which is pushing our bikes through, not trail, up a hill.
It's like one of my least favorite things. It's
It's-
very, very tiresome.
And it's very hard.
It's very hard.
It's very unrewarding.
yeah, it's bad. It's
it
really
feels
hard.
impossible.
It also feels stupid. You're like, why am I
It does feel
dragging
stupid.
this thing through the woods
It feels like trying to roller skate while pushing a chair up a hill.
in gravel?
In gravel,
Mhm.
yeah. And everybody, like, I think the most that I heard from the group as a consensus was like,
That was the biggest complaint of the day.
yep. And up we went, and everybody got their bikes up the hill, which was awesome. And so we hit the trail after bike whacking for a while, which again, still always seems like magic. And I was like, you know what, guys, it doesn't make sense to take this loop around to the checkpoint. We're going to bike whack across the top of this ridge. Let's do that. We proceeded to do that. and got our checkpoint and continued on.
Nice.
So from there, we got to do a pretty normal descent to come back off the ridge that we had just bike whacked up. And we were nearly to where we were going to end on the trail. And another 2-person team said, come with us, we can see the building. And so it was like, why take the trail around? We're just gonna cut through and get to the building where our second to last checkpoint is. And so we bike whacked out of the forest, and we're on this big grassy hill with like flowers intermixed on it. Hannah called it the Sound of Music Hill.
Beautiful.
And we're all just giggling like small children as we're riding like 6 across down this hill.
What a
to our
dreamy
second
moment.
to last checkpoint. You know, we're
So
coming up on
dreamy.
other teams. Everybody's cheering for each other.
Oh, it's just like a women in sports delicious moment.
It was
Everything's
just
the best.
awesome.
It's beautiful and everyone's
exactly.
together.
It was like
Just-
everything is the best.
That's awesome.
Everything is the best.
That's
and
awesome.
so our very last checkpoint, we had passed actually 2 times earlier during the day, so we knew exactly where it was, which was great. So we hit our last checkpoint and headed to the finish line. And we finished with like in about 7.5 hours of the 8-hour time limit. We got 36 of the total of 37 points.
Wow. That's the close. Have you ever cleared a course before?
No, I've never.
So that's the
cleared a
closest
course.
you've come to clearing a course
Yeah.
ever. That's
and
amazing.
I was like, I'm not gonna let it eat me up too much because that was
No.
not the point of the day.
No.
But I was like, dang, this could have been the day.
So maybe you didn't clear the course, but what did you do instead?
So, in the 3-person division, they announced 3rd place.
Mm-hmm.
They announced 2nd place, which at this point I was very confused. And then they said, we have a tie for 1st place with the exact same time, the exact same points.
Mm-hmm.
Burf Barf 1 and Burf Barf 2.
Yay.
And I thought it was the coolest thing that they let us tie for 1st place.
that was very
because-
kind of them, logistically speaking.
Yes. And I was very concerned about
Maybe bumping someone else at a
bumping
podium.
someone, making like race supplies run short, something like
Just
that.
rubbing
So-
somebody the wrong way because
Yeah.
you were a big team. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just the nicest.
That's
way,
very
it was
kind.
the
That's
nicest
very
outcome
generous.
it could have
Yeah.
been. And everybody still got medals for getting on the podium. We got 6 of us on the top of a podium, which was
Adorable.
awesome.
Adorable.
And when they announced us as winning, we screamed like we had won the Powerball lottery.
Of course you did.
It
That's
was
how Burf Barf does.
That's how Burf Barf does.
Well, people thought that was like a baby died when we won. Not Nitro Gain, Nine Rouge Gain.
Yes.
People were like, Jesus
Oh
Christ.
yes.
Jesus Christ.
We were very excited about
we
winning
like
that.
threw potato salad in the
Yes,
air.
We did. Yeah. It was that level with 6
Sweet.
people.
Gotta
We
do
also hugged each other like it was the last time we were gonna see each other.
Yeah.
So
Last day of college.
yeah.
So glad that we won this major award.
Yep. Absolutely. So yeah, taking 5 pretty much brand new, except for Blythe's first adventure race the weekend before Adventure Racers, and taking them out and them
then
winning
winning.
on their first time. I just
Doesn't
was,
get better than that.
It was just awesome. And like the other women at this event, the diversity that was represented there was just fantastic.
Mm.
I couldn't get enough. Like if they
Mhm.
would have said, we've decided to just do another day of 8 hours, I would have
You're
been
like,
like,
"Great,
yes,
let's
I
keep
just
going."
want to keep rolling in this.
Yeah.
And it was just a beautiful event. And it was the epitome of everything we've kind of been talking about and working towards. And, towards the end of the event, Chip Dodd from Team This Ability was there, in particular to help represent Andrea in a way too, because Andrea's first adventure race was Buff Betty.
Oh.
And we were towards the end of the race, and he was taping us or recording us, and I said, I'm so proud of these women, I could cry. And then when we finished, I cried, and Hannah
Yeah.
goes, oh, you were serious? You were gonna really cry? I was like, yes.
I don't think people realize that like there's been something lately in the air where you've been so stoked on like racing, developing racing, and like bringing in women into racing that's made you a little bit soft.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you are the rock hardest pussy, and nothing ever makes you cry ever in the 8 years that I've known you. So you've gone a little full squish on us.
And I think because I've thought so much about owning and developing who I am as an athlete and what I bring to the table as an
Mhm.
adventure racer, and really working hard to own that fully.
So it's a sense of pride.
Yes. And to see other women start and progress on that same journey just really makes me feel super emotional because I connect deeply with that idea of I thought I was this. I have a hard time believing that I'm this.
And now I'm starting
this.
to believe that I am this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I had everybody on the team do like a short bio because there were so many like unknown jewels in these women's experience. Like, you know, having done an Ironman, doing sprint triathlons before, like being into
I had
canoeing,
no idea.
teaching orienteering
Who
before.
did an Ironman?
Blythe.
Holy
Blythe's
shit.
done an Ironman. And Hannah put in her bio, she said, I've had 4 decades of keeping my inner badass quiet, and I'm learning to let her be loud.
Oh golly.
And see, I'm going to get teary again.
Oh,
like,
golly, that one hits me real hard.
Because we can see what's in there and we keep it quiet. And Buff Betty was an opportunity to be really fucking loud.
Oh man, I'm so proud of you and everybody on this team, and I'm proud of Burf Barf Racing as an organization. And I'm just really proud to say that I can, you know, maybe if I wasn't there, I can still put, you know, my name to something that I'm so proud of. Yeah.
So I'll say this now. We're going to be doing more of this. We're going to be doing new, in particular events where I shouldn't say that I've been thinking about committing and then commit to it on an episode, but I'd really like to kind of structure my year next year to be like for every couple of competitive races where it's me and Lauren or me solo or me with Lauren and Laura and maybe one other person, that I'm going to do a couple of events where I'm just there as like the facilitator, essentially, like as the group lead, as a navigator to help make that entrance into adventure racing easier, because there's a lot of barriers from logistics, going with other people, feeling safe, etc. So I'd love to do more events like this. And
we're going to have a development team.
Yeah, we're going to have a development team. So be thinking, you know, for 2022, if you're on the fence, get off the fence.
It's time. Join us.
I'm sure if you ask any of the women that were on the team this last week, they would encourage you.
Give you a rave review of their experience.
Yeah.
There was flowers.
There was flowers. And I just want to say as final words, like the other 5 women that came and were pretty gracious and grateful about me being part of that experience for them. Like, y'all gave me just as much. So this is a very like self-fulfilling loop that's happening, and I really appreciate you all showing up and putting your heart and your laughs in this. So thank you.
Yay, Burf Barf Racing.
Yay, Burf Barf Racing. So until next time,
we are
Burf Barf.